The road curved like a spine through the trees, loose gravel spitting under the tires of Jonas's old Toyota. Pines loomed tall on either side, their tips lost in a low-hanging curtain of mist. Lena stared out the window, watching the branches flicker past like a metronome. It had been nearly 8 hours since they left Oslo. The sky, already grey when they'd started, had deepened into a heavy slate. Jonas adjusted the volume on the radio. Nothing but static. "You sure this place even has power?" he asked, glancing at Lena. "Should. The realtor said someone checked the generator last month. He even emailed the report." "Right. Because everything always works perfectly in places with no Wi-Fi and one road in." Lena didn't answer. Her stomach had been tight since they passed the faded wooden sign that read, "Morksund, 3 kilometers." She hadn't been here since she was 9. Her mother had never spoken about her brother, Uncle Edvard, except to say he'd chosen solitude over family. Lena only learned of his death 2 weeks ago, from a lawyer's email about an inheritance. A cabin. Some journals. A parcel of lakefront property no one wanted. Jonas pulled into a dirt clearing where the forest opened to reveal the cabin. It was larger than Lena remembered, 2 stories of mossy timber with a rusted metal roof. The lake stretched behind it, black as oil, still as glass. Sarah stepped out of the back seat and lit a cigarette. "Well," she said, exhaling, "it's got that whole Scandinavian haunted woods vibe down." Lena smiled thinly. "Better than the city." They hauled their bags inside. The cabin smelled of old wood, mildew, and something metallic. The main room had a large stone hearth, 2 armchairs, and a bookshelf lined with dusty volumes. Upstairs were 2 bedrooms and a study filled with yellowed paper and cigarette butts. They found the generator in the basement and managed to get it running by dusk. Dinner was canned soup and bread. By candlelight, they read from the uncle's notebooks, rambling reflections, local folklore, meticulous drawings of the lake. On one page, the handwriting grew erratic. "They come when it's quiet. The water listens. You'll hear them knocking. Don't open the door." Jonas scoffed. "Classic crank stuff. Isolation makes people go weird." Sarah closed the notebook. "Still, it's kind of spooky. I mean, he wrote that days before he drowned, right?" Lena nodded. The coroner had ruled it accidental. Edvard had been found tangled in his own fishing line near the old dock, lungs full of lake water. No signs of struggle. No alcohol in his system. Just drowned. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. Her room overlooked the lake. Moonlight broke through the clouds in patches, casting shivers of silver on the surface. She thought about how the water had swallowed her uncle. She thought about the way the villagers looked at her earlier that day when she asked for directions, suspicious, guarded, as if her very presence was a warning. Somewhere in the house, a floorboard creaked. Lena sat up, heart suddenly quickened. Another creak. Then silence. She tiptoed to the hallway and listened. Jonas's door was shut. So was Sarah's. The only sound was the generator's hum outside. Back in bed, she told herself it was just the house settling. The place was old, probably full of mice and wind drafts. At 3:11 a.m., she woke again. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow taps, clear, deliberate, on the front door downstairs. She froze. Another knock. Then a pause. Then another set. She held her breath and slid out of bed, creeping down the stairs. The entryway was dark. Through the side window, she could see nothing but fog and black trees. She stood still for a long time, heart hammering. No one knocked again. She opened the door. Empty porch. No footprints. No wind. Just cold air seeping in, thick with pine and lake. Lena locked the door again and backed away. In the morning, when she mentioned it over coffee, Jonas raised an eyebrow. "You sure it wasn't a dream?" "I was awake," Lena said. Sarah looked up from her phone, frowning. "There's no signal. Not even one bar. My compass app isn't working either." "That's not unusual," Jonas said. "We're in a valley. Mountains mess with signal." Sarah shook her head. "Even the offline map isn't loading. It's just blank." Lena glanced toward the window. The fog had thickened, curling against the glass like smoke. She hadn't dreamed the knocking. And someone, or something, had stood at their door. They spent the morning unpacking what little they'd brought: dry goods, firewood, books, a solar-powered lantern Jonas insisted on lugging from the city. Lena opened more of her uncle's notebooks in the upstairs study, while Jonas checked the shoreline for cell signal. Sarah sat cross-legged in front of the fireplace, sketching the outline of the lake with a half-used charcoal pencil she found in the drawer. The fog hadn't lifted. In fact, it seemed to press closer, as if the world ended 20 meters past the cabin walls. At noon, Jonas returned from the lake looking pale. "I found something weird," he said, holding out his phone. "A photo of the dock." At first glance, it was just wood and water, but Lena saw it too. Near the end of the dock, something pale beneath the surface. A shape, blurred and ambiguous, like a hand reaching upward. "It could be anything," Sarah muttered. "Yeah, like a log," Jonas said, but his voice wasn't confident. "I think we should leave," Lena said quietly. Jonas looked at her. "We can't. The road's washed out." "What?" "There was a rock slide about 1 kilometer back. Mud, trees, half the hill. No way around it without gear." "Why didn't you say anything earlier?" Sarah asked. "I thought it would clear by tomorrow, but—" He trailed off. They stood in silence. That afternoon, they ventured down to the dock together. The air was sharp and wet. Lena's boots slipped on the mossy planks as they reached the edge. Sarah knelt and peered into the water. Nothing there now. "Maybe it floated off," Jonas offered. Lena squinted into the lake's dark glass. A distorted reflection stared back at her, her own face ringed by branches. Something about it felt off, like the reflection wasn't quite in sync with her movements. She turned away. "Let's go back." That night, the knocking returned. This time, it was louder. Jonas stormed downstairs with a flashlight and yanked the door open. Nothing. Just trees and lake and fog. They searched the perimeter with the flashlight. No tracks, no signs of a prank. Only silence. When they returned inside, Lena noticed something wet on the wooden floor. Small puddles, 2 of them, like someone had stood barefoot in the hallway. Sarah followed her gaze. That wasn't there before. Jonas crouched, touched the water. "It's cold." They cleaned it up and checked the locks. No open windows. No signs of forced entry. "Maybe it's condensation," Sarah offered. Jonas shook his head. "It's not humid enough for that. And only 2 puddles? Doesn't make sense." That night, they slept with the lights on. By the next morning, Lena's nerves were fraying. She opened another of Edvard's notebooks. This one was older, yellowed at the corners, ink faded. One passage jumped out. There were 6 originally. 6 who disappeared. The village buried it. called it drowning, called it suicide. But we all knew. We knew what the lake wanted, what it keeps. I hear them knocking when I'm too still, whispering when I don't sleep. You can't stay long. The lake will take what you won't give. Lena read it twice. Sarah, she called. You remember when I said I hadn't seen Edvard since I was 9? Yeah. There was this one summer. We came here for a week. I remember him teaching me how to fish off the dock. But I also remember, she hesitated, I remember another girl. Jonas looked up from the fire. What girl? I don't know. She was blonde. Maybe a neighbor. But I don't remember her name. I just remember that after that summer, my mom never spoke of Morksund again. Sarah tilted her head. Are you saying she disappeared? I don't know, Lena whispered. They decided to hike to the village that afternoon. It was barely a half-hour walk, assuming they could find the trail in the fog. The path was overgrown, branches low and slick. The deeper they went, the quieter the woods became. No birds, no wind. They passed an old sign nailed to a tree, Still Van Haar de Pibun. Still waters have deep bottoms. At the edge of the village, the houses sat sunken into the mist like forgotten teeth. Most looked abandoned, curtains drawn, windows milky with condensation. An old woman stood by a well, staring. Jonas waved. Hello. Do you know where we can find the mayor, or? She turned without speaking and walked away. A man in a raincoat came out of a store with a plastic bag. He stopped when he saw them. Lena stepped forward. We're staying at Edvard Wold's cabin. I'm his niece. His expression darkened. You shouldn't be here, he said. He was my uncle. I know who he was. The man shifted his bag. You should leave. Before the lake remembers you. What does that mean? Sarah asked. But the man just walked away, disappearing into the mist like a ghost. They returned to the cabin before dark, unsettled. No one spoke much that evening. And at 3:11 a.m., like clockwork, knock, knock, knock. 3 slow taps. Then a voice. From the other side of the door. Muffled. Wet. Familiar. Lena. The voice was soft, feminine, muffled by wood and fog and distance, but unmistakable. Lena bolted upright in bed, breath catching in her throat. For a moment, she couldn't move. The air was too still, too heavy. She glanced at the clock beside her bed. 3:11 a.m. The knocking came again, softer this time. More. Deliberate. Lena. Open. She stumbled out of bed, heart pounding, and cracked open her door. The hallway was lit dimly by a dying lamp. At the far end, Jonas was already peering down the stairs, his face pale. You heard it too, she whispered. He nodded. It said your name. Sarah emerged from her room, holding a fire poker like a weapon. Do not open that door. Jonas looked at her. No one's going to. But Lena was already halfway down the stairs. Lena, the voice said again. Closer now. It was the same cadence she remembered from long ago. A memory bloomed from the back of her mind, muddy, incomplete. A girl. A giggle. 2 small hands pulling her into the lake. She reached for the lock. Lena, stop. Sarah shouted. The shout broke the spell. Lena backed away. Jonas rushed forward, yanked the door open, and stepped out into nothing but fog and silence. The porch was empty, but on the doormat sat a small object, an old Polaroid photo, soaked and curling at the corners. Jonas picked it up, handed it to Lena. It showed two children, maybe 6 or 7 years old, standing ankle-deep at the edge of the lake. One was clearly Lena. The other girl was blonde, slightly taller, grinning. On the back, in a child's scrawl, A+L, Morksund Summer 2004. Best friends forever. Hey. Lena whispered. I don't remember her name. Anna, said a voice behind her. Sarah was staring at the photo, face pale. I remember now, she said. Your mom mentioned her once. Said she drowned. But she never said when. Or how. Lena stared at the photo, as if the image might move. Something cold coiled in her stomach. That summer, she said slowly, she pulled me into the water. I remember slipping on a rock. I hit my head. I woke up on the dock. My mom screaming. But I thought it was a dream. Jonas's voice was quiet. Maybe it wasn't. Sarah looked toward the window. We need to leave. Today. They packed quickly, grabbing only what they needed. Clothes, notebooks, food. Jonas tried the car. Dead again. Even with the generator running, the battery wouldn't take a charge. Then we hike, Lena said. Past the rock slide. We can make it on foot. They set off by noon, fog still clinging to the trees. The trail felt tighter now, like the forest had closed in overnight. Jonas led, using a compass app that flickered and glitched every few seconds. Sarah kept glancing behind them, fire poker still in hand. As they rounded a bend near the rock slide, Lena froze. Footprints. Wet, barefoot and fresh, heading in the direction they'd just come from. But there was no one ahead of them, and they hadn't passed anyone. Maybe an animal? Jonas said, but he didn't believe it. Lena's voice was barely a whisper. They're small, like a child's. They pushed on past the rock slide, climbing the ridge carefully. By late afternoon, they reached the point where the forest began to thin. The fog broke suddenly, and the view below hit them like a slap. Nothing. Just trees, hills, mist. No sign of the road. No cell towers. No power lines. It was as if the world had shifted in their absence. Sarah sank to her knees. This doesn't make sense. The road should be right here. Lena felt something twist inside her. What if? She didn't finish. Jonas rubbed his forehead. Let's head back. Regroup. Figure out a better route. They descended in silence, the mood turning heavier with each step. Back at the cabin, night fell quickly. The fog was denser than ever. Sarah sat curled up on the couch, rocking slightly. I heard her too, she said. This morning, while I was brushing my teeth. A whisper. Right behind me. Same voice. Jonas lit the fireplace. We're not going to let a ghost scare us out of thinking rationally. You think this is a ghost? Sarah snapped. Because I'm not sure what's worse, a ghost or someone deliberately screwing with us out here. They argued until exhaustion silenced them. Sometime in the middle of the night, Lena woke to the sound of water dripping. She followed it to the hallway. At the base of the stairs, the puddles had returned. Only this time, they weren't small. They formed a path, wet, bare footprints, leading up the stairs toward her room. Her door was open. Inside, the Polaroid sat on her pillow. Next to it, written in dripping black ink on the mirror above the dresser, "Come back to the water." Morning came like a dying breath, slow, grey, and choked with mist. The cabin walls felt closer, like they'd shifted inward overnight. Lena sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the Polaroid still clutched in her hand. The handwriting on the mirror was gone. No ink, no smudge, nothing. But the photo hadn't moved. Jonas was in the kitchen, boiling water. He looked drained, like he hadn't slept. Sarah paced near the window, twitchy, anxious. Her fingers tapped the fire poker she now carried like an extension of her arm. "We're not waiting another night," Lena said. "We hike again. This time west. The village road leads somewhere." "And if it loops again?" Jonas asked. "Then we break into a house if we have to," Sarah muttered. "Find a radio. Flare. Something." They set out by late morning. Lena carried the photo in her coat pocket, though she couldn't explain why. Maybe she hoped someone in the village would recognize the girl. Anna. The trail narrowed as they followed the ridgeline west, trees knotted close together like clenched hands. They crossed a shallow stream where the water shimmered strangely, oily, reflective, too still. No insects. No fish. They reached the village by mid-afternoon. But it wasn't the same. The houses were in the same place, but older, decayed, as if years had passed overnight. Ivy clung to the sagging roofs. Windows were cracked, curtains rotted. Sarah froze. "This isn't possible. We were just here yesterday." Jonas looked around, lips parting slowly. "I think we're not where we were." They entered the same store as before. Inside, shelves were bare. Dust coated everything. A can of fish dated 1997 lay on its side. In the back, they found a stack of water-stained newspapers in Norwegian. The headline on one read, "Local girl drowns, body not recovered. Morksund residents in mourning." The date, July 2004. Sarah picked it up with trembling hands. "This is her, isn't it?" A grainy photo beneath the fold showed the same girl from the Polaroid. Blonde hair, crooked smile. Anna Solheim, age 9. Lena's knees buckled. "It was me," she whispered. "I was with her. That summer. We were swimming. We went too far out." She rubbed her temples, forcing the memory to surface, painful and slow. "She pulled me under, laughing. Then I remember. She didn't come back up." Jonas swallowed. "You blocked it out." "My mother made me. She told me it was a dream. She said we were never there. That I had a fever. I thought she was protecting me. But maybe she was scared." Sarah lowered the paper. "If Anna's body was never found." Jonas turned to Lena. "Why did she come back now?" Lena didn't answer. Because something inside her already knew. They returned to the cabin by dusk. The fog followed them like a tide. The moment they stepped inside, the generator sputtered out. Darkness settled like ash. And then, the door opened on its own. Just a creak. Just a few inches. Wet footprints formed on the floor. Small, bare, child-sized. They came from the dock. Sarah backed away. "No, no, I'm not doing this." Jonas moved toward the fireplace, grabbing the lantern. "We stay together. Nobody opens anything." But Lena was already walking toward the door. "She wants me," she said. "Lena." Jonas reached for her, but she slipped past. Outside, the mist was thick as gauze. The lake looked molten, mirror-like, and endless. Lena stepped onto the dock. Each creak beneath her feet felt like a countdown. Anna, she called. No answer. She knelt, staring into the water. And there she was, just beneath the surface. A pale face, eyes open, hair drifting like kelp. A girl frozen in time. Anna. Lena reached out. The water rippled. Come back, Anna whispered from below. Lena's breath caught. I didn't mean to leave you, she said. The air around her turned sharp, metallic, electric. Behind her, Jonas shouted something. Sarah screamed. But Lena didn't hear. She plunged her hand into the lake. She came to some time later, lying on the dock, soaked and freezing. Sarah knelt over her, shaking her. Lena, what the hell were you doing? Jonas was already wrapping her in blankets, dragging her up toward the cabin. She didn't speak until she was in front of the fire, shivering violently. I saw her, she said. She let me go. Sarah frowned. What do you mean? I think she just wanted to be remembered, to be real again. She's been waiting for someone to come back. Jonas sat back. That's what the knocking was. Her memory, Lena said. What was taken? She wasn't angry, just lost. By morning, the fog had lifted. The lake was calm, still. The road beyond the rockslide was clear. No mud, no fallen trees. When they returned to Oslo 2 days later, Lena filed a formal request to reopen the drowning case from 2004. Divers searched the lake. They found a child's shoe near the deepest bend. But no body. Just an old hair ribbon tied around a submerged post at the bottom of the dock. Lena never heard the knocking again. But sometimes, when she looks into water, deep, dark water, she sees the ripple before her reflection forms, like something else is looking up, waiting.